would still be here and yada, yada, yada. But I think it's that close to, remember the Devontae Smith play before the fourth and whatever.
Yeah, 11. The drop. He dropped it, right? Yeah.
First down where would it have been? First down at
the 11, I think it would have been, right? The 11-yard line.
Yeah. So so they were at the San Francisco 20, 1st and 10. They lose a yard. Jalen Hurts was sacked. Then the incomplete pass. Then the drop by Devontae Smith. And they would have been at, about the 10-yard line with 43 seconds to go. Now, no guarantee you're getting in, but you got a good shot. That's how close things are in the NFL.
Right. John, this piece is quite extensive, man. I didn't even get a chance to read the whole thing yet, but I'm looking through at the end of it here, and some commentary about A.J. Brown and zone coverage, Jalen Hurts and man versus zone, talking about most of his touchdown passes come against man coverage. A.J. Brown disappears versus zone coverage. What do you make of that from a football standpoint, John?
Well, the ball doesn't come out. Like when you're in the NFL, like that's the biggest difference for a quarterback between college and pro. Like you're generally, maybe there's 2 or 3 games a year you play, even if you're an SEC school or a high-level Big Ten school. There's probably 2 or 3 games a year where you play against similar talent. Maybe a few more when you start talking about the playoffs, but you get the point. You're throwing to a lot of open receivers. And the NFL open is not what it is in college. It's like a small window that's closing quick. Occasionally you get blown coverages and it's easy, but I'm talking on a consistent basis. And if you're playing zone against really good zone teams, like the Eagles are, by the way, even though some people don't know they're in zone because there's a lot of man match coverage, a lot of complicated coverages from teams like the Eagles, and that's what has made things difficult for quarterbacks around the league. Those windows close quickly, and even if you look at the 4th and 11 play on the 4 birds, the dumbest play in the history of football, he was open for a split second. And the only way it was going to work is that that ball was out on time and it was a bullet. Now, even it would have had to been a really good throw as well. But number one, as soon as it comes out late, the play's over. If it was on time and it was a bullet and a lot of contextual, maybe it's a historic play. But the ball's got to come out on time. And if it doesn't, A.J. Brown disappears.
Is this an adapt or else moment for this offense, for Jalen Hurts, for this team?
It seems like it is. The lip service as it is, I don't believe that. I don't believe it. We'll see, basically. I know people want an answer. I haven't met Sean Mannion yet. It seems like they want to change. Ultimately, I think it's going to be similar to what Kellen Moore did. He came in with the mentality of, I want to change. I want this to change. And he scaled it back to take advantage of what he had. I think Sean Mannion's going to do the same thing, but I have no idea of knowing that. I have heard the little Easter eggs. Nick Sirianni said, well, we did a lot of good stuff, and that'll be morphed in too. That's the same stuff he said with Kellen Moore.
Right. So and I think the stakes are even higher this time around because, I know you don't buy into that necessarily, that the league is caught up with it, but it feels like the league is caught up with it. And even if it's not the league catching up with it, it's just players not being as good. that's still the factor, So it feels like the stakes are even higher this time around.
Yeah. Well, yeah, from the standpoint, the players, that's the problem. You're running it back with a bunch of players who are a year older coming off down years for the most part. That my only point about the league not catching, you don't catch up to well executed blocking schemes. Not possible. Can't catch up to it.
John, a little inside baseball question for you. Do you when you see an article like this, who comes out from Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler, obviously two very well connected guys, Tim being very, very well connected locally, well respected, and a great reporter for a long time. Do you think the organization, I don't want to say give him his blessing, but like, do they know it's coming? How do the guy, they do, right?
Yeah. Well, you asked him for a comment. In fact, at some point there, I believe there's and I read it really quickly this morning, but
yeah, it came out right, or you put it up right before our show.
Yeah. There's a part in there where they requested comment from the Eagles. So, and the Eagles obviously declined. You always, they have a heads up because you want to comment.
But do you believe that they would have had the ability to nix an article like this? Like, because there are people, and I'm not saying it's true, but there are people out there who see stuff like this and think the organization puts this stuff out on purpose, or uses people to put stuff like this out on purpose, or they give sources to Tim, to put in the article to create narratives on purpose. Those are all lines of thinking, and I'm not saying any of them are true. I'm simply asking for what you're.
Oh, the Eagles didn't want this story out there. I mean, the answer is yes to all of that at times. That's not what happened here. I've been around long enough to understand. Yeah, this is well sourced from the standpoint of how many people they talk to. And the people that hate anonymous, well, you're not going to go on. That's just journalism. I can't teach people journalism in 10 minutes on Birds 365. I mean, that's how it works. You're not going to put your name to something that's going to impact you with the organization. But there are times the team tries to get out its narrative, and there are times where it's just good reporting. This is just good reporting. But obviously the team wants certain narratives out there, and they try to get it out there as best as they can. And sometimes there's not even, most of the time it's not anything like when Andy Dalton got traded for it. Most of the time the team is saying, look, this, we like Tanner McKee. This isn't about trading Tanner McKee, that type of thing. Not, underhanded.
Yeah, right.
Things that people conjure up in their mind, just trying to give and that's more about trying to give people the proper background of what's going on for a particular decision or things like that. But so anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying no, the team is not leaking or giving Tim sources, and no, that doesn't happen.
All right, good stuff. Couple super chats, then we'll let you run here. John, Terrence, what's up, Terrence? Terrence Bond says, this is a hired hit on my boy Jalen. This story comes out right after Lurie's comments. I see what's happening.
Yeah, no offense, Terrence, and thanks for listening and the super chat. But I can't help you if you think that. It's fine. There's no use. Think about it. Hired hit.
One thing I can guarantee.
I don't even think it's a negative piece.
Well, one thing I can guarantee, I think Lurie spoke at like 7:45 or 8 last night. Tim McManus did not stay up all night writing this piece. This thing was he's been writing this for maybe a month.
Yeah. That's one of my, because Mike was talking about it. Everybody's, you have 400 people. Like, I hate that. I wish, ESPN is one of the only outlets left that give people time to
do
stories
journalism.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything else is, flash of the pan, heat of the moment, get it up quick. Yeah, I get that. I wonder if there's an area where we could do that more, but conflicts, I guess, with what you're doing here. Here's Salt Up says, this fan base don't deserve Jalen Hurts. All he does is win. Watch when he leaves and we get a bum QB and we start looking like losing like the Cowboys. This fan base is ungrateful and fuck Philly media. Now it's our fault. Go on, man. Let this react.
Blame the messenger. I tell you all the time. I have folders in my email. I have hate mail folders. And it's my goal to get to. I'm a fan of 32 teams.
Yeah, right.
I'm very close, but now I don't cover the league nationally, so probably never going to get there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Get it out, vent.
There you go. Sauce it up. Thanks for the super, brother. We appreciate it. Checking in. All right, John, your final thoughts here. Oh, real quick. Yeah, there was a thing that came up on Brandon Graham was supposed to have a press conference and then it never happened. Did you hear anything about that or do you know anything about that?
Yeah, it was first of all, yeah, it was I think it was on that Bussin' with the Boys account where he said he was going to have from Arizona a press conference at like 11 Eastern time. So I didn't know. At first people are thinking, well, maybe he's talking about maybe missed, time zones and stuff, maybe meant Arizona. But anyway, 11 passed, 2 passed, and no press conference. So now other than, announcing another retirement, I don't know if the Eagles, I'm of the belief of he shouldn't be back, but and they just signed Joe Tryon. Brandon's awesome, but at some point you got to move. At some point you got to move on. But who knows what's going on? Maybe, there's a tremendous love for him with this organization. Maybe they'll bring him back for 1 year at the veteran minimum or close to it. From a football standpoint, I don't think it's going to be that meaningful. But I don't know why the press conference didn't happen.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, last one here. T-Time says, don't act like reports not drop at a certain time to gain traction. It's not a coincidence it was released this morning. They talked about it on ESPN right now, calling him not coachable. Come on now.
Well, no, obviously, things are dropped for.
Yeah, maximum.
Obviously, it was.
That's business. They have to. They got to make money, guys.
It's the NFL meetings. It's a crux point. It's similar to saying trades happen at the beginning of free agency, at the draft, post June 1st. Yes, there's a crux point to everything. That is certainly with outlets like ESPN. That is not in the hands of the writers. They're not saying, "Hey, release this."
Maybe where T-Time might be right. Maybe the ESPN execs or whoever controls that was like, "Yo, release it after after the owner." I don't know. Who knows? Because it did kind of drop pretty weird. Is it public yet to the non-African link?
I don't know. Everybody seems to have it, so I think so. But I don't know. I've been doing the show. I haven't been checking for the link, but
yeah, it's out there now.
Yeah.
On a non-African link.
Yeah, but we're not babies. It's not baby years. Yeah, obviously things are done to maximize readership and things like that. But that's the business part, and is usually the shitty part of journalism, and it's kind of ruined journalism is the business part.
Well, yeah, but there is no journalism without the business part, right? People got to get paid.
Unfortunately,
make money. Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
All right. Johnny Mac, good show. I'll catch you tomorrow on a Thursday edition of Birds 365. Thank you, my friend.
All right. Thanks, all.
All right. Thanks, John. There's Johnny Mac. John McMullen joining us right here on Birds 365. Great show today. Interesting show today. Not what I expected to be talking about on today's program, but a good one nonetheless. And I'm sure everybody's got a whole lot of thoughts about it in the chat. We will take some of those thoughts right now. John says it wasn't a scathing thing. I thought it was a scathing report. Now, I didn't read the full thing because 7:39 or 7:48 or I don't know, something like that. John retweeted it and put it out there. I'm like, whoa, what is this? I have John's notifications on X. So I clicked on it and I read it, and then the show started about 12 or 13 minutes later. So the report is so long, I didn't even get through the entire thing. But I did get a summary of it and stuff. And I didn't think it was a very great article. I mean, I thought it was kind of a scathing article. I mean, talking about a whole lot of just to summarize it for you guys. ESPN article, Tim McManus, Jeremy Fowler, ESPN pulling back the curtain, if you will, kind of how they always do it, on the Eagles' offensive dysfunction, basically stating Hurts is at a crossroads with the team, pushed back on scheme changes, kind of went to bat against Kellen Moore a little bit about the same concepts. And it's calcified the passing game is is the word that was used, calcified. All right. Now with Mannion coming in, how much does the offensive change, force Jalen Hurts or the Eagles offense to adapt? I think that's kind of the summary of it. There's a couple key details, at least the ones I read. The fourth down play call, the one that everybody got mad at Kevin Patullo about, the 4 verticals. Well, apparently that was the recommendation of the quarterback, Jalen Hurts, who wanted to run 4 verticals on that play. A couple people on the sidelines. There was a quote, "Oh my God, this is not happening." So people on the sideline were apparently upset with what they were running, and certainly maybe thought some of the same things that the fan base did. The other stuff in there was, on Hurts resisting the scheme changes. He fought Kellen Moore, and this is from the article. So you want to attack me? I don't really give a fuck. Go somewhere else. Go cry in the corner. Go pout on social media. I don't really give a rat's ass what you got to say about it. I'm relaying to you what the article states. He fought Kellen Moore on motion and shifts in 2024, and Moore has obviously ran way more motion once he left, and he was running way more motion before he got here. Continually fights going under center. He doesn't like turning his back on the defense. Changes play calls to what some feel is an excessive degree. It was the quote, an excessive degree. And a source close to Hurts says he had too many yes men or yes people around him last season. That was on Jalen Hurts. And then on A.J. Brown, growing frustration directed at Hurts from within. The 4-year relationship together has been tested. Brown disappears against zone coverage. His yards per reception dropped from 14.1 to 11.7, and his yards per target from 9.1 to 7.3 against zone. Brown, obviously the subject of trade talks this summer. Hurts versus zone coverage. He faced zone coverage on 56.2% of plays, second highest of his career. Might show the defenses are changing the way they want to play them. And his completion percentage is actually better versus zone, but all his touchdowns basically come against man. 19 touchdowns to 3 picks versus man, compared to 6 touchdowns versus 3 picks versus zone, and 77 out of 110 career touchdown passes have come against man coverage. Now you have Patullo fired, Sean Mannion coming in. Mannion, 33 years old, first year as offensive coordinator, implementing a McVay-Shanahan style system. Heavy motion and heavy under center play action. This is the most dramatic offensive haul since Sirianni was hired. And perhaps this is where I got the adapt or else mentality here, where it feels like this is an adapt or else moment for Jalen Hurts and for this Eagles offense.